Rolling patrolling. Right, what's up hustlers, Side Hustle Tech here, and today we've got the Razer Viper Mini in house. Let's see how it performs. This thing was released back in March 2019, but I only just discovered it. Let me tell you, I love this thing. It's sat on my desk as my main mouse at the moment, so that should tell you something. Nothing special about the box in terms of packaging. You get the mouse, you get a manual, you get a sticker. Same old from Razer really, so let's just move on. Okay, right off the bat, this thing is geared towards smaller hands and it's geared towards more of a fingertip grip. So if you're a palmer with big hands, it's not suited for you. I have huge hands and I've kind of adopted the fingertip grip since I've started using this mouse. I love it, you get more control out of it. More on that later, but if you're a palmer with big hands, move on. The design profile follows that of the Razer Viper with a few revisions, but we'll get into that later on. So it's time for the specs. It weighs 61 grams, super light. It weighs 118 millimeters in length, 61 millimeters at the rear flare, 58 at the front and 54 at the grip. So if you compare those to some other mice, like the one I reviewed in my last video, this is a small mouse. This must be the lightest and probably the smallest gaming mouse Razer have ever come out with. So you might have realised I missed the height. The reason for that is because the height's a bit weird. It's taller than the Razer Viper, only by about half a millimeter or so. But the reduction everywhere else has resulted in the mouse having more of a pronounced curve instead of a flat shape. I like it. So with the mouse being so light, you're probably going to assume that it compromises on build quality. But this is a Razer product, guys. They never compromise on build quality. So the build is solid. I can press anywhere with both hands and I get no creaking and no button actuation. Top and bottom, side to side, no problems at all. The coating on this is like grippy, matte. Actually not grippy, it's more of a rough matte coating. Really good and really enjoyable to use when I was using it, because I did apply some skins to this and boy do skins elevate your game 1,000,000%. It's really, really good. I'm never looking back after putting skins on this thing. The reason I put skins on it is because of the lack of rubberized sides. Coming from the G502 with rubberized sides, I'm kind of used to them, so I put skins on it and it does a much better job. You get RGB on this thing, as you do with pretty much any Razer product, and it's good. It's good, as it always is. The thing with this is, it's different to the original Viper. It's got more RGB. They've put an underglow on it, sort of like a strip at the bottom which provides an underglow. It makes the mouse look like it's floating. I really like it, but some of you hardcore FPS gamers, ones that really like their lightweight mouse, won't be impressed because it probably added a few grams to it. If they got rid of this RGB strip, they probably could have shaved off even more weight off the mouse. But I like it, I think it's nice there, and the mouse is light enough. So you get an ambidextrous shaped mouse without the ambidextrous side buttons. So no lefty support here, unfortunately. Razer have done this to shave off as much weight as possible off the mouse. So those hardcore FPS gamers that I mentioned earlier, you guys are going to love it. But no left hand support, which is a bit of a shame really. The buttons on the right hand side are prominent and stick out just the right amount so I can roll my fingers over them. And they actuate, no issues. The reason I mentioned that is because on the original Viper, the buttons were kind of flat. People didn't like that because it took a little bit more force and a little bit more thinking to actuate those buttons. That's not what you want in a fast-paced shooter. So although the Razer in-house optical switches have been known to be a bit mushy previously, they feel pretty snappy and responsive here. This thing is supporting their own in-house optical switches. I think it's 50 million clicks instead of 70 million this time, but they feel good, they feel crisp and snappy. And I think that 20 million trade-off is worth it 100%. So there's very little pre and post travel on either of the main triggers. So even when you apply an excessive amount of pressure, there's not a lot of movement. Still responsive and clicky, which is just the way I like it. So the scroll wheel steps are soft and muted, which is selective. It's not for everyone, but I can see this being really good for a game like Fortnite. Another major difference between this thing and the original Razer Viper is that Dpi button on the top. It is just a Dpi button, so don't expect to be changing profiles, but it does have 5 different DPIs out of the box. It comes with 400, 800, 1600, 3200 and 6400, which caters towards pretty much anyone, so there's no need to install Razer software and it's literally plug and play. I hate installing Razer software, it's bloatware. So I'm glad Razer have done this. So the sensor underneath is a Pixar 3359 sensor, which is a step down from the ever so popular and the high-end 3389 but I think Razer have done this to reduce the cost of the mouse. It is technically a step down, but I doubt you'll notice a difference. Sensors nowadays are all top end, especially optical sensors, so you probably won't notice a difference between any of them. One thing to be aware of though is a slightly higher lift-off distance to this sensor than the 3389. So you probably have to lift your mouse a little higher whilst you're doing those big swipes. You might notice it initially whilst you're gaming, but I don't think it'll last long. You'll get used to it. I did get used to it pretty quick. So around the sensor, they've left a plastic mold instead of putting a PTFE foot around there. Bit disappointing, but I think they've done this to cut out on cost. The other 2 feet have got PTFE treatment and they are pretty massive. So I don't think this little plastic piece around the sensor will make much of a difference. It didn't to me. It just sounds a bit scratchier, but in the end, if it doesn't make a difference to performance, there's no problem. The cable on this is a bit stiffer than it should be. It's a 61 gram mouse, so I expected a really light, kind of ascended feeling cable. That's not the case here. If you want a really lightweight, wireless feeling mouse, change it out, paracode it, but I think something like the ascended cable from the glorious Model D would have suited this a lot better. So I went through the entire review without mentioning the price. And can you guess how much this costs? It's not expensive, I'll tell you that. I know it's a Razer product, but it's $40 guys. $40 for this mouse. What a bargain. Yes, it's a 61 gram mouse, tailored for smaller hands, fingertip or claw grip, with a sturdy, solid shell, updated, fast, responsive mechanical clicks, out of the box DPI adjustment, smooth gliding with pure PTFE feet, and a heck of a lot of RGB for $10 to $20 less than the majority of the competition. Think about that for a second. If you do want to get this mouse, $40 guys, you're not committing to much. If you don't like it, you just go back to your old mouse. You're not having to pay $130 like the G Pro Superlight and having to probably stick with it if you don't like it. This is $40. You don't like it, you chuck it out. But I presume you're gonna like it guys. It looks like they're out to take over the market with their variety of shapes, sizes, weights, and they're doing a real good job, especially with this release here. The one problem I got with this mouse is that cable. So Razer, when's the wireless one dropping? If you enjoyed this video guys, give it a thumbs up and comment down below what you want to see next. Don't forget to subscribe and tap that bell icon so you know every time I upload, usually on a Saturday. But that's it for this one guys. I'll see you in the next one, but until then, keep hustling.